just want to welcome you all to the Health and Housing Consortium's Housing Marketplace for Veterans. My name is Bonnie Mohan. I'm the Executive Director of the Health and Housing Consortium, and I'm so pleased to be here with you all and to be doing this event, which we actually piloted 7 years ago. Our first housing marketplace was in 2015. It was for behavioral health housing, and I think at that event we had 19 housing providers. It was in person, and it was really our response to something that we were hearing, that people, particularly this is kind of during the health home, when health homes were just getting started, people had clients and patients that needed housing, but they really didn't have those relationships. They didn't really know what the process was for referring into supportive housing. And meanwhile, there was housing providers that needed referrals for their vacant units. So we organized this event really as an opportunity to bring people together in the same room. We fashioned it after kind of speed dating. It was an opportunity to kind of quickly meet with a housing provider, learn about their programs, their vacancies, eligibility, maybe come with a particular client in mind if they're looking for housing for, and then move on, get about 10 minutes and then move on to the next housing provider. And so it was really this kind of amazing opportunity for people to actually make face-to-face relationships and learn more intimately about what these programs look like. This is our 11th housing marketplace, including one that was organized by the Brooklyn Health and Housing Consortium last year, and another that we organized jointly. We have, each one focuses on a different population, just as today's is on veterans. We've done marketplaces for families and young adults, for people with mental health issues, substance use, people who are medically frail, older adults, and really we've done a lot of different populations, and it's just a great opportunity to learn about these different housing programs. I want to give a special acknowledgement to Jim Mutton, who you will meet shortly. He's here for the first time in a marketplace as a housing provider presenting on programs, but he's actually one of the co-founders of this event, and as one of our board members of the Health and Housing Consortium, and has really helped kind of get this whole program off the ground. So we're so thankful to Jim, as always. And today's event really came by because one of the things that Jim had mentioned is that they were having a concern for independent living, not getting as many referrals as they needed to fill some vacancies that they had in their veteran housing. And so we reached out to some other providers to see if they were having similar issues, and found that they were. So, it's our policy that no apartment should ever sit empty when there are so many people in need of housing. So we really want today to be an opportunity for those of you who work with veterans to learn about these programs and hopefully make some referrals and get some folks housed. So we hope that you take advantage of this event and this opportunity to meet, to ask your questions, to really learn the ins and outs of these programs and find out if they might be a good fit for your clients, patients, the folks that you're working with. With that, I will hand it off to Tess to run through the housekeeping logistics for how the event will run. Thank you so much.
I'm Tess Summer, and I'm the program manager for the Health and Housing Consortium. There we go. So a few housekeeping items. So everyone should be on mute, the video off. And we ask that you keep it like that while our providers and while the VA gives their presentations. And then after that, we're going to go into breakout rooms. And in those breakout rooms, we definitely encourage you to put your camera on and unmute yourself, because that's where you have the opportunity to ask whatever questions come up to the housing providers. But throughout the event, please feel free to use the chat box at any point to send questions or resources or anything like that. Make comments. To enable or disable subtitles, you can select live transcription at the bottom of your screen. So that should be enabled right now. And then at the end of the event, after the breakout rooms, we're going to come back together for any final questions. And I ask that you complete a brief evaluation poll and survey. Your input is really important to us as we plan future events. So for today's agenda, in a moment, we're going to get started with a presentation from the VA. and a brief Q&A session about their housing programs for veterans. And then we're going to go into our housing provider presentations. So today we have Concern Housing, Jericho Project, and Services for the Underserved. And they're each going to give a brief presentation, an overview of their available housing programs for veterans. And then we'll ask that you hold your Q&A, because then we're going into our breakout rooms and you're going to be able to meet with representatives from each of the 3 providers and ask them questions about their housing. And then we'll do a quick wrap up and evaluation. So that being said, I'd like to introduce the team from the VA New York Harbor. We have Karen Fuller, we have Farah Samimi, and Joan Deutschman, and we are so grateful to them for offering this presentation today. So I'll hand it over to you guys.
So my name is Karen Fuller, and as Tess and Bonnie said, we're here from the VA. With me, I have Joan Deutschman and Farah. Are you? I can't see you. I'm looking for you. And Farah Samimi, who I think is on camera, but I can only see certain people. So I am the manager of the homeless program at VA New York Harbor. Joan is the Healthcare for Homeless Veterans Coordinator and the Community Resource and Referral Center Coordinator. And Farah is one of 7 HUD-VASH coordinators. So I'll start. First, I want to thank Bonnie and Tess for organizing this today. And also thanks to any of you that celebrate Yom Kippur who came anyhow. That's very nice. So you can, are you doing the slides or am I? Are you fast forwarding? Yeah. So I think many of you are familiar with the legal definition of homelessness established by the 1987 McKinney-Vento Act. I won't read it, but there it is. And yeah, I think you've heard of the distinction between a homeless individual and a chronically homeless individual. A chronically homeless individual has more intense homelessness for a year or more, at least 4 episodes of homelessness in the last 3 years, and some kind of disability. Next. So the VA initiative to end veteran homelessness officially began in 2010 under President Obama. And in New York City, the VA has partnered with many city agencies, as well as the agencies that all of you work for, to bring down veteran homelessness. And together, we've really made a dramatic improvement in the numbers since 2010. So when we started, the PIT count, the point in time count, showed that we had almost 5,000 homeless vets in New York City. And we got to our all-point low in 2017, when I think we were around 500, there it is, 559 in 2015 and 2016. We have crept a little bit back up to around 701 for the last PIT count, which was in January 21. There was a PIT count in 22, but I don't know those numbers yet. But we did dramatically reduce the numbers, about a 90% decline. And we also declared the end of chronic homelessness for veterans in New York City in 2015. However, as we all know, there are still homeless vets in New York City. We still have a lot of work to do. VA is the only federal agency that provides substantial hands-on assistance to veterans who are homeless or at risk of being homeless. Next. So these are, well, let me say the Secretary of the VA set forth a challenge this past year for us to house nationally 38,000 veterans. And for our medical center in New York City, which does not include the Bronx VA, which is also a New York City VA. For our medical center, we are tasked to house 236 people this year at a minimum. And those housing placements can come from these different programs, which you see are all represented by acronyms, which the VA is famous for. We recently got a list of all the acronyms in the VA, and they total 5,676 acronyms. So every single program has, letters to name it, and it doesn't always really represent what the program does. But these programs are healthcare for homeless vets, case management and contract housing, grant per diem, which is the Borden Avenue program that is subcontracted to Department of Homeless Services, HUD-VASH, SSVF, supportive housing for veterans and their families, or supportive services for veterans and their families, the Veterans Justice Program, and the MHRRTP is the DOM. That's the mental health program. So you can go to the next slide. So how are we doing with that 236? We're doing very well. We will definitely meet that goal. We'll exceed it most likely because we do place a lot of people into housing. And the city and our partner nonprofits and many other agencies are also placing veterans into housing. So the number that we share with VA, National VA, doesn't always include all the placements that all of you are doing. So the true number is actually higher. So I'm sure most of you have heard of a PIC count, the point in time count that the city does every January in 21, every January, some day in January, they deploy groups of people to go out and count the people that are on the streets. And then they add to that the people that are in the shelters and in our transitional housing and come up with a total number of homeless people in New York City. And they also count the subpopulation of homeless vets. This was just saying what 21 showed, that there were 701 veterans in emergency shelter total. And that is for the whole COC. So that includes New York City and a little bit of Westchester. Next. So the VA's strategy to end homelessness has always been very holistic. I mean, obviously we do housing assistance, but we also, try to connect people to medical care, to mental health care, to substance use treatment, to employment services, help them with their housing searches and placement. And the model that we use is called critical time intervention, which means we really are most intensive on the front end of the interventions, and then we titrate it back as people stabilize. We also use a housing first approach, which is quite different from how things were done maybe even 8 years ago, in that we meet people exactly where they are and go on the idea that housing is a right, that we want that people stabilize once they get housing, that we don't have any prerequisites to getting into our program, such as doing a treatment program. There are no requirements to being considered for housing placement. We try to have a no wrong door policy, which means that whatever campus you enter, whatever clinic in the VA that you come into, or if you're out in the community and you call through our homeless call center, that we will find a way to bring you into the program. We don't require that you go to one site, or that you have to go through, a lot of hoops to get at least assessed for the program. I say try because prior to COVID, we truly did have a no wrong door, but since COVID, most of our activity does in fact take place at the Manhattan campus. We still do see people at the Brooklyn campus and St. Albans. We had 2 clients come to Brooklyn just yesterday, but I would say that, I don't know, Joan, maybe 80–85% of all the intakes go through the Manhattan campus at 23rd Street. Next. This is just a nice graphic to show the reduction in veteran homelessness from 2011 to 2017. Next. So our homeless program has a lot of other homeless programs under the homeless umbrella. And the most important, well, the intake is Joan's program, which is healthcare for homeless vets. And that's what most of you are going to be focused on, because if you have a newly homeless vet or someone that you want to access VA services, you're going to be going through the CRRC, HCHV, and homeless triage. And I'll make it simple. Just think of homeless triage. And Joan is the point person for that. She'll speak about it in a few moments. But we also have a lot of other homeless programs. Once they've been assessed by Joan and her team, they may be referred to one of these other programs. We have a very strong partnership with Department of Homeless Services since 2008, and also the other city agencies like NYCHA, HPD, Human Resources Administration. DHS runs a program that most of you have probably heard of called Borden Avenue. And we have VA staff stationed at Borden Avenue in conjunction with the ICL team that works at the site. We have 154 veterans in that program, and then there are another 100 vets that are also in the DHS shelter there. The contract housing is currently at Colonial House, which is in Sunset Park, and HUD-VASH is at all of our campuses. We have over 1,800 veterans in that program, and it includes an ACT team, which is an interdisciplinary team where the case managers have smaller caseloads because the clients are considered to be have more intensive case management needs. We also have employment coordinators. Next slide. Again, I spoke about the no wrong door. That's really, something we strive for so that, people don't have to go through a lot of complicated hoops to get seen by our program. We'll explain the points of contact at the end. Next slide. I also spoke about critical time intervention. Those are just definitions. Next slide. I assume, Tess, you're going to send out the slides, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. All right, Joan, you want to speak a little about homeless triage?
Right. So as Karen said, homeless triage is centered at the Manhattan VA on 423 East 23rd Street and First Avenue. We're really the first place that a homeless veteran or a veteran about to be homeless comes to. Not everyone is living on the street, but many people are, or on the subway. Those are really the strictest criteria, along with having a formal eviction notice. That doesn't mean that there aren't case-by-case differences, but I won't go into that now. That's a case-by-case basis. So we can get the veteran into, first of all, a DHS shelter. We're not funded for our own emergency shelter. So for men, that's 30th Street. For women, Franklin Shelter and Help USA. For families with children, there's PATH. And for adult families without minor children, there's the Adult Family Intake Center. So from there, we can assess the veteran for our two transitional housing programs that Karen mentioned, either Borden Avenue, which is only male right now, or Colonial House, which takes both male and female. Neither one are accepting families, unfortunately.
Joan, Colonial
yeah.
House is still accepting families through February.
Oh, February now?
Yeah, they got an extension for that. And
Okay.
also, since you mentioned gender, they're all inclusive. There are many transgender vets as well that have stayed at Colonial House.
Right. As it says, financial assistance referrals, HRA, one-shot deal, then the SSVF program, which some of you are part of. We may get donations of food and clothing, hygiene products. We, of course, refer them to other services at the VA, mental health care and health. We refer them to various legal aid agencies in the area and other community partners. Shelter Plus Solutions is one. Of course, Jericho Project and Services for the Underserved, Help USA,
VOA.
Volunteers of America. Yeah, and those 4 agencies happen to all have our SSBF grant as well. Okay,
Thanks. Next slide.
so that's our Manhattan campus. We are located on the 15th floor, 15th South. We do have a Harlem CBOC, which stands for Community-Based Outpatient Clinic. We are between nurse practitioners right now, but that doesn't mean that people can't come in and see a nurse. We are partially, we have a nurse practitioner there like 2 days of the week right now. We hope to get that back up to 5 days. Basically, it serves the people in and around Harlem, the veterans in and around Harlem, so that's a great thing. Brooklyn campus, people can stop in there, but they usually will be referred to us at Manhattan, St. Albans as well. My colleagues in the HUD-VASH program usually triage people there before sending them to us if need be. 30th Street Men's Shelter, of course, is run by New York City Department of Homeless Services, but we have a social worker from the VA, from my department, Homeless Triage, co-located there 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Mr. Adrian Miller. He's able to meet the veterans right there. Thanks.
Next slide. So I touched on this earlier. We have short-term contract housing. That's a program that's affiliated with Jones Team. They provide emergency housing, 3 meals a day. It's set up currently for 56 beds, 48 male identified, 8 female identified. For the next few months, they will still be taking a family, but that unfortunately will be ending after February. Next slide. The grant per diem program, that's for up to 24 months. It's a longer program, but many people leave sooner than that. And they have a very good track record of putting people into independent housing, whether it's through one of our programs or through something that the city has access to, like with the City FAPS voucher or master lease or a different type of voucher. Next slide. So HUD-VASH is kind of the flagship program at the VA that used to be kind of like winning the lottery, but it's become a little less so in that now there's a lot of other vouchers out there competing with HUD-VASH. So these are Section 8 vouchers that are earmarked for the VA, and they come with case management. We currently have 1,814 vouchers. We're about to get another batch of vouchers actually this month. And then a portion of those vouchers, 270 of them, are actually subcontracted to a community agency called Carlos Lopez and Associates for case management. We are actually no longer the second largest case management program in the US. I do need to change that because now there are a number of other cities around the US that have equally as large programs. The biggest one would be in Southern California, which is about 3 times the size of our program. Farah, do you want to talk more about HUD-VASH? Farah Samimi has been with HUD-VASH for as long as I've been with the homeless program, even longer actually, and has been everything from a case manager to a coordinator and knows the program very well. You can go to the next slide though. Okay, Farah.
Hi everyone. As Karen said, my name is Farah Samimi. I have been in HUD-VASH for 13 years. I have seen it grow from just being a HUD-VASH to a homeless program. So I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of growth. To me, it's almost like a parent having a child and seeing them grow and become a productive member of the society. HUD-VASH, as Karen said, I am one of the 7 coordinators. We have an ACT team, which is a sort of community team. Our veterans admitted to that team really need intensive services. Other than that, we have what I sort of refer to as 4 regular teams, 3 head VASH team in-house, 1 on each campus, and the 4th team is our contractor, Carlos Lopez and Associate, who provide the same services as the rest of the housing team. Then we also have 2 teams, ALC, or alternate level of care. We have a large portion of our veterans in that, on those teams, I think it's 800 plus. Basically, we use ALC for veterans who might be successful after a year or so. Some veterans do well, and they no longer need intensive case management, you know, weekly, biweekly, monthly contact. So we move them on to ALC, and then the ALC worker contacts them every 3 months, 6 months, once a year, and we monitor the vouchers. The other group of veterans that we refer to that team is also veterans who are in the program, but are really not open to case management after a while. Obviously, this is a case management program, but you know, it is independent housing, and we don't force our services on any veteran, but we also do not take the housing away. So they are able to maintain their housing with some support. And if they ever really want to return to HADVASH regular team for active case management, we always are open. We are a large program, and the process for HADVASH is very complex. As Joan said, we have a triage team on site 5 days a week, where veterans are assessed, and then on once a week, we have a team of 7 HADVASH coordinators and 1 veteran social worker. And we have the rest of our homeless program join us, such as triage or our colleagues in Borden Avenue, sometime our partner SSVF. And they bring on cases of veterans who they feel might be appropriate for placement in HADVASH. You know, we all listen and clinically really look at the case to assure that the veteran is, to assure that we can provide services to veterans with a specific need. For example, if someone needs 24/7, we are independent housing, we cannot provide that sort of services. However, we do have veterans. We work with veterans that are in supported housing, such as Genesis, Kenmore, Jericho. We work with veterans who do have home health care, as long as it's not 24 hours. So basically, as Karen said, you know, we rarely say a case is not appropriate for HADVASH. It has to be very complex medical reasons or some other things. Just to quickly run you through the actual process, once the screening committee, we are accepted these veterans, we run them through a very complex process, do application, look for housing, and apply for one-shot deal, et cetera, to house our veterans. That's the end for me. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Vera. So you skipped the SSVF slide, which was right before then, and I'm not the expert on SSVF, but many of you are because you work in SSVF. But I will say this, that SSVF is a very important partner for us, that even just this morning, I was in contact with Cyrena Huggins over a case, and they were rapidly responding to a situation that included some temporary financial assistance to the veteran. So, you know, SSVF is a really helpful adjunct for us of our services, and has some flexibilities that we don't. Final slide. So these are points of contact. If you have a question or you want to get connected to the right person, I can help you. Joan can help you. Neil Santa Cruz, who's not with us, is our employment coordinator. He can be emailed directly to. So I think that winds it up for us, but want to see if there are any questions. I think Tess left 5 minutes, but I don't know how we are for time.
I have a question. This is James. Oh,
Hi, James.
Hi. Am I muted? Oh,
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Let me take my camera. This is James. I'm the veteran peer specialist here at Cases. I'm also a veteran myself. And on top of that, I'm also going through some of the issues that we serve our clients. And some of the things that and the people that I've spoken to are currently in shelters now. They didn't even get the HUD VASH, City FEPS vouchers.
Mhm.
Veterans sitting with City FEPS vouchers in the shelter, and they're not moving. And it's like now they're bringing in. This was the complaint that they're bringing in a lot of people that's not family, because it's a veterans family. It's a lot of people from other countries coming over.
Migrants.
And, you know, the migrants coming over, and they're filling up the shelters, and guys are not getting out of it. So if we have a veteran that's in the shelter who's not connected with HUD VASH, or just say one of the city programs, what can we do to try to get them connected with HUD VASH and probably get them placed?
Yeah, well, let me first say that the situation with the FEPS voucher holder and HUD VASH voucher holder are similar these days. This has been a very tough year, notably tougher than previous years, because there, with the American Rescue Plan, there were like 7,500 NYCHA vouchers that flooded the market. So a lot of people have vouchers and still are competing for more scarce housing. So it has been hard, but we have managed to place many people despite that. But I'm just letting you know that rents have gone up and that housing has been more scarce and that there are more people with vouchers. So it's not as easy to get housing. It seems to take longer than it did like before the pandemic. But that said, we get referrals from Borden Avenue every week. I don't know if your friends or your colleagues or the people that you know are at Borden Avenue or in a different shelter.
I'm familiar with Borden. I went through there. I know a lot of the Mr. Cheeks and the directors like that. So as far as a professional relationship I still have with them, and you know, they tell me the same thing, that I would have to go through 800 Poly Place and get them placed. And one of the guys that I sent from before, this was in another place I sent, he didn't have enough time to get benefits. He wasn't in the service long enough, but he did receive an honorable discharge.
Yeah.
So he's like, they said I'm not allowed to have the services. And I had to follow up for him. And the only thing that he was denied because of the time was the medical services. They told him that he was still eligible for HUD VASH. Is that correct?
Yeah, the HUD VASH eligibilities have expanded a lot since January 21, and anyone with any type of discharge except for a dishonorable discharge is eligible for HUD VASH now. So other than honorable is eligible. The discharge type does not matter very much unless it's a complete dishonorable discharge. There also is an exclusion for certain categories of sex offenders, but apart from that, there's a widespread eligibility. One of the issues may be that maybe they don't have all their documentation. They do need a social security card, or they do need, Spara, you're gonna help me with this. What are all the documents that you have to have to apply for?
I really just wanted to know if
I happen to have it right here, Karen. They
Yeah,
need their DD 214 or statement of
which
service.
we can get for
which
them.
We can help get for them. A social security card, a photo ID, preferably a VA ID, proof of income, even if it's just public assistance, an award letter, if they're working, their pay stubs. And as we get closer, you know, to the housing, their 3 most recent bank statements.
Okay.
But, you know, I just wanted to say something, James. We don't handle the city FEPS voucher. Obviously, that is New York City.
Right.
And we do see veterans who have that voucher who come in to see us in homeless triage, it's not our voucher, I often refer them back to the city's home-based agency. Sometimes I refer them to New York City's Department of Veteran Services,
Mhm.
and sometimes they're able to help.
Right, so,
Hi,
You know what
everyone.
I'm saying? We do HUD-VASH and the city does City for HEPS.
so I mean, the basic question I was asking is, individual come and says, I have city PEPs, it's not working for me, I'm a veteran, never did the HUD badge, how can I get HUD badge? So since he has a voucher already, he's eligible to apply for HUD badge?
I'll let Karen answer that.
Yeah, sometimes they can apply. I mean, we have taken people who haven't succeeded with city FEPs, but I will tell you that objectively, it's a similar voucher. You know, it is the same in terms of the subsidy. However, it doesn't come with the case management. I think it's going to be evaluated on an individual basis, you know, what have they tried, but it's possible that if they are not succeeding with the city FEPs, and I know we have to end here because we're out of time, but it is possible that they could be considered, but they would be starting from scratch again. They have to then pull together another application and wait. But we've done it, you know, we do have vouchers, and if it makes sense for them to be in our program, we would admit them.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all so much. I don't mean to jump in here.
No.
I want to give time to our housing providers. Thank you to the VA team for being here, for giving this presentation. And if you have questions, their emails are here on the screen and you'll receive them in the slides as well. So we do encourage you to follow up with those questions. And Joan, I'd love that list of documents that you mentioned so we can share it with our participants.
Sure, somebody can. And James or anyone, I do recognize some names on here like Kenya. That's my email. You can contact me if you have questions about starting the process for any of our programs.
Thank you so much, Joan. It's really great.
You're welcome.
So that being said, we're going to start our housing provider presentations. So I welcome our colleagues from Concern for Independent Living, Jim Mutton and Junie Clother, to join us right now.
Thanks, Tess. Good afternoon, everyone, and kudos to Karen and Joan and Farishta. You know, the vital supports in this world working with veterans, and we've turned to the VA and New York Harbor numerous times for support and had an abundance of help. So we're forever grateful to you guys, and thanks for your teamwork. I'm here with Junie Clother, as Tess mentioned, and we're here from Concern for Independent Living, which is now known as Concern Housing. We actually changed our name. We shortened our name. We're a 50-year-old agency that's been doing supportive and affordable housing for 5 decades. We started out on Long Island in Suffolk County with some very small 1 and 2 family homes for former patients of a Central Islip Psychiatric Center who were being deinstitutionalized, and there was no housing, and they got together and formed a housing agency, and that has since morphed into what we are today, which is owner and operator and developer for over 2,500 units of supportive and affordable housing. Junie and I work in New York City, and I oversee 7 different projects that we have, one of which is our Surfette's Place Veterans Housing Project, which we're going to tell you more about. We also have a number of projects that are in development currently in Brooklyn and the Bronx. So we hope to be opening 5 different sites in the next 5 years all over the city, which will include housing for veterans, seniors, folks coming out of homelessness and institutionalization. So we will continue to tell you about those projects, but today really is just focused on the veteran side of things. We On Long Island, we actually did a number of very successful veteran supportive housing programs, which essentially ended veteran homelessness, on Long Island. And we reached what's known as a functional zero, where veterans no longer had to go into the shelter system to get housing, that they were prioritized for available vacancies wherever they were. And our Surf Vets Place program, we opened in 2019, just a couple of years ago, over in Coney Island on 21st Street and Surf Avenue, which is just a block from the boardwalk in a wonderful complex, which serves 82 formerly homeless vets alongside 53 affordable households. So there are a number of families of different sizes, working folks in the building. It's a very integrated apartment building. And what I'd like to say about this, hearing the conversation earlier about the challenges of vouchers and benefits, this is a project that doesn't require HUD-VASH or SSVF. We actually were fortunate enough to get a project-based Section 8 voucher set up with NYCHA for all 82 of our homeless units. So folks interested in applying for housing do not need a rental subsidy. We will take care of all of that. And the project-based voucher that people get at Surf is good for the duration of someone's stay at Surf Vets. It can be permanent housing for the rest of their lives if folks like, or after a year, it can be successfully ported out and used for other housing, both in New York City and other states. So that's a wonderful resource to be aware of, that you can potentially move from this project to other housing and keep a rental subsidy on board. So here are some of the pictures of our site. And we have a neighboring building that just opened up, which you don't see on this design, which is also supportive housing and affordable housing, serving survivors of domestic violence. So we have a wonderful neighbor and partner with an adjacent building. But this essentially is right on Surf and 21st Street. We'll go to the next slide. So this is a lot of lingo here, but essentially what we have available for folks is 82 studio apartments fully furnished with kitchens and bathrooms for folks who are unstably housed or exiting homelessness, who are veterans. And they can be veterans of any type, honorably or dishonorably discharged. Of those 82 units, 50 are for folks recovering from a mental health condition. And this can be a very broad array of mental health conditions, including trauma, PTSD, major depression, essentially along the lines of an HRA CAPS 2010E as known in the system. So a diagnosed serious mental health condition, along with some proof of veteran eligibility. And that, as we've heard about, is typically a DD 2214. And that's really all the eligibility that's required there. So 50 units for mental health folks, and then 32 units are with a partnership with OASIS that we have for folks with a primary substance use disorder. And these are folks that don't necessarily have to go through the HRA system, that they have a primary substance use on a recent psychiatric evaluation. So they could be coming out of residential substance use treatment, detox or a rehab, or some type of transitional setting. All that's required for those folks is a diagnosed substance use disorder. Benefits are income-based. So we're talking essentially about people paying a portion of their income towards the rent. The NYCHR Section 8 subsidy takes care of the bulk of that rental subsidy, and the tenant share is based on typically 30% of what the veteran receives. So it could be folks with Social Security income, VA, public assistance benefits, or folks that are working. We have an income cap because it's a supportive housing unit. It has to be up to 50% of what's known as area median income. And this has actually gone up a little bit. There's a figure there, 35,130. It's closer to 40,000 now for 50% of what's known as the federal area median income. So we'll hop to the next slide. We do have a video about the program. We're not going to have time to show that now, but hopefully in the breakout rooms, we can show you a little bit about the video. So the studios, they range from approximately 3 to 350 square feet. Very big windows, lots of great light, a full kitchen with all full stove and microwave, refrigerator, lots of really great closet space, a separate bathroom with tubs and showers. We have handicapped accessible units for folks that need them. Really nice fixtures in these apartments, good wood flooring and fixtures that are really designed to last a lifetime. We're running out of time here, but we'll touch on some of the staffing that we have available. Junie heads up a team which includes substance use specialists, health specialists, med managers. Everybody has a service coordinator. We also have a couple of peer counselors on site, a live-in super. So there's 24-hour recovery, rehabilitation, planning, support services. We'll go to the next slide. So it's just a little bit of a layout. Each studio is a little bit different, and they're all mixed up from 1 to 9 floors across the building. Hop to the next slide. And in the building, we have some wonderful spaces, a fitness room, very large laundry, 2 different roof gardens. There's a bike storage, library and computer room. So these are all embedded throughout the building. And these are features of much of what we do in all of our housing projects. As I mentioned, we're on 21st and Surf. It's about a 7-minute walk from the major subway lines and blocked from the Cyclones baseball stadium. A lot of healthcare services in the neighborhood. We have great relationships with those folks. And Junie and I would put our contact information there, but we will, in the breakout rooms, be able to answer more questions about eligibility and referrals. And I think that is it for us for now. Thank you, Tess.
Thank you, Jim. That was wonderful. And I want to note for everyone, I failed to mention that now's a great time to follow along in the housing provider packet. It was emailed to you, and my colleague Harmony has put it in the chat, and she'll add it again. And this has all of the information that's in the slides and a little bit more. So we encourage you to follow along if possible. And now I will hand it off to Marzana Umundi from Services for the Underserved.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you see me, or what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, my name is Marzana Umundi. I'm a Director of Admission to SUS. We don't have presentation slides, I'm sorry, and no pictures. SUS has 2 residences for veterans. One is Knickerbocker and one is Genesis, and the other one is Genesis. They both located in Brooklyn. Knickerbocker is located at 832 Knickerbocker Avenue in Brooklyn. We have in there 48 studios for veterans. Both our program required housing, HRA 2010E housing application. So the programs required mental health diagnosis. Knickerbocker requires DD 214 as a proof of service. It doesn't matter what discharge the veteran had, just the proof of services. As I mentioned, we have studio apartments. They all come furnished. We provide case management and other services in the building. No meals provided. Everybody has their kitchen. We also have mental health clinics in Brooklyn, so there is a direct connection to other services that we provide. Genesis is a little different. It's located at 350 Snedeker Avenue in Brooklyn. We are in partnership with Help USA. SUS just provides social services there. We have studios, furnished studios, as well as family apartments. Currently, we have 8 studios available and two bedrooms for families. For those apartments, as I mentioned, HRA 2010E housing application is required as a HADVASH. HADVASH voucher, NYCHA HADVASH voucher, and head of a household diagnosed with mental health condition. We had, the first requirement was chronic homelessness. However, over time, with having less veterans that hit that chronic homeless criteria, that was lowered to just homeless or the veterans that are facing eviction or homelessness. So we open to veterans in any circumstances, in any housing situation at the moment. However, as I mentioned, the HRA 2010E application and the NYCHA voucher for that. There is a full service building. We provide mental health case management services. There are some social activities there. The staff is there Monday to Friday to support the veterans. So anyone interested in both our location, welcome. You can contact me through email at services@sus.org. That's the best way. We can do immediate apartment viewing. We take any veterans that is interested for both locations, the Knickerbocker as well the Genesis. So welcome, guys, at any time. Please send the HRA, or even if the veteran is ambivalent, is not sure if they want to join that housing, we open for building tours that maybe someone will change their mind after they see the building. So please contact me. We're available. Program director is available at any time. Please just reach out. We're having those vacancies. We're having issues with filling those vacancies for a while. So we will be happy to even talk to someone who is interested and maybe help them to change their mind and come to us. Okay. As I mentioned, because I see the question in the chat, what's the eligibility? As a HRA 2010E approved for community care housing with any homeless history or without the homeless history. For families, there is category D as David, and for individual, any mental health approved HRA 2010E application. So this would be it for SUS. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. And as a reminder, everyone, we are going into breakout rooms once we're done with these presentations. So I encourage you to hold your questions for those breakout rooms so that, because that's what they're for. So we'll get to your questions then. And so now I'd like to introduce Esteban Rios and Cynthia Adams from Jericho Project for their presentation.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Cynthia.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Esteban Rios. I'm a managing director with Jericho Project, and I'm here with my colleague, Cynthia Adams, who is managing director for building operations. So we work together at Jericho Project and providing services to a variety of programs, but we're going to be presenting to you today on our Fordham Village Veterans Residence. I just want to start off, which we don't have on this slide here, but I just want to tell you that what Jericho's mission is. Jericho Project's mission is to empower individuals and families experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity by providing housing and person-centered services to address social inequities. So those individuals and families that we also provide services to include our veterans, those who have served in the military. So again, we're providing information today specifically on our Fordham Village Veteran Residence. Next slide, please. So Jericho Project has been providing services, supportive housing and social services to homeless men, women, and children for over 39 years. Our focus is on recovery, employment, and independence. And we utilize peer support as a key part of our recovery process. We've served 2,900 individuals in 2020, and we have currently 12 programs, including 8 residences, and we've with over 585 supportive housing units. Next slide, please. So we're jumping right into Fordham Village. So some of the amenities that we have specifically at Fordham Village, we have on-site laundry, reduced pricing for tenants. We have community rooms, lounges, and gardens. We have an in-building gym, and we have a computer lab and computer setup for tenants' use, and free Wi-Fi. Next slide, please. So the neighborhood, we are located within the Fordham section of the Bronx. This particular program, about 5 blocks from the B and the D line, 4 blocks from Metro North Stop, a few blocks from the BX 34 and 41 bus stops, steps away from Fordham University, the Bronx Zoo, the New York Botanical Gardens, Poe Park, and St. James Park. The plethora of shopping offerings up and down Fordham Road. We're close to St. Barnabas Hospital and also Bronx Care, which is now referred to as Bronx Care Hospital Center. And the neighborhood in the Fordham section is a blend of residential and commercial areas, which really makes it a very open and welcoming neighborhood for our veterans. Next slide, please, Cynthia, if you want to talk about the rental subsidies.
Okay, Fordham Village is a 56-unit apartment building. It is 100% tax credit. So there is some income guidelines. Currently right now, 50% medium income is at $46,700 and 60% medium income is at $56,040. It is 100% subsidized with project-based HPD Section 8 subsidy. The tenant receives the subsidy. The subsidy is good for in the building, and after a year of living in the building, the tenant can have the option if they decide, if their family have grown or if they want more independent housing because they no longer in need of the supportive services, they can port their voucher out to more independent housing. So their rent is as per HPD HUD guidelines, 30% of their income. They do pay electricity there. That is the only utility that they pay at Fordham.
Next slide, please. So this is a photo of the entrance at Fordham Village. Get a sense of what it looks like. Next slide is our community spaces. So we have a community room, which is access to the community room is right through the first floor entrance. We have a photo here of our garden, which recently we have a horticultural therapy, which I'll talk about a little bit more when we talk about the services. Has incorporated some of the work that we've done to revitalize and beautify our garden. And we have a space for cookouts, which our veterans take quite advantage of the warm weather to have cookouts throughout the summer. And these are activities that amenities that our veterans are able to take advantage of independently. This is it's a very strong community of veterans who reside at Fordham Village. So they are truly a community of veterans who support each other and are supported by the staff. Next slide. This is some of the other amenities we have as our workout space, and also our computer access for clients as well. Here's a typical layout of what an apartment looks like, and really it's really set up for veterans to really come in and make it their own. They are able to decorate their space and add furniture, but this is pretty much the basic furniture that they're provided. And it is a self-enclosed studio, which has its own designated bathroom and kitchen. So it is a fully functioning studio apartment. Some of the services that we provide is case management services, career development, physical and mental health care coordination and referrals. We have here, horticultural therapy was started out as a pilot project with one of our other veteran residences at Kingsbridge Terrace, and we're going to be bringing it more full-time as the fall and spring months come in. With the Fordham Village tenants, and we also have but all participation in the services are voluntary. So there is no mandate on any veteran to participate in any of the available services. But what we have recognized is that we have the veterans at Fordham Village and some of our other veteran residences and our other non-veteran residences participate wholeheartedly in Jericho Project's available social services. Next slide, please. We are of a very few other agencies. We have what's called something that is called, our Arm with Life OWL program. This is where individuals are able to, from Fordham Village, take the portable voucher and be able to move out with some level of assistance from a coordinator, someone who is outside of the space of the case management team, because this person is actually going to kind of help that person carry through the process of moving out of supportive housing into more independent housing. And they also provide them with supports for up to 2 years after they have moved out of Fordham Village. Some of those supports include helping them to recertify for their voucher after a year, or also some mediation techniques with their new landlord, because now their new landlord is not connected to would not be connected to a supportive housing agency. The atmosphere, and both myself and Cynthia can attest to, it's a caring environment with the residential and commercial space areas mixed together. Our agency focuses on career development with our workforce opportunities, priority on physical and mental health to help the tenants build on their self-sufficiency and self-determination. And we have a lot of, again, celebrations, barbecues. We have a variety of on-site events that we provide a space for our veterans to express themselves. We have also a veteran advisory council that meets with our CEO quarterly, directly with our CEO without any other staff present, so that they can basically talk to her directly about the concerns and needs of the veterans across Jericho Project.
I would like to go
Next.
back and just state that this is a 56-unit building. 34 units is designated for POP-F individuals. That is those who have completed a course of treatment within 6 months to a year, and 22 of the units are designated for regular community tenants. They do not have to have a 2010E. They don't have to have any homelessness or anything of that nature. They do have to have proof of service, whether it's a DD 214 or a proof of service letter. It doesn't matter their discharge as long as they serve.
And this is, unfortunately, the photo may have uploaded sideways, but this is a photo of example of some of our staff. But on site, we have our case managers and a program director, career counselor, and employment specialist through our job development, our superintendent, and our property management building manager. And we also have services through our health coordinator and also a nurse practitioner and social worker. We have 24-hour front door coverage for tenant safety. And pretty much that's Fordham Village. Yeah, any questions?
Thank you so much. That was a really awesome presentation. I'm going to save our
Thank you.
questions for the breakout rooms.
Absolutely.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our housing providers.